Hello and welcome to the Independence Day special broadcast reaching you from High Impact Television. I am Oyinpriye Krumale and I'm not doing this by myself today.
Thank you, Onyiprey Kromale. I am Sarah Osasa. Thank you for joining us on this special program. Today, Nigeria is 62. We should be excited, shouldn't we?
Well, we should, but Nigeria is 62 today and the Independence Day celebration, just as in other times, has kicked off. But a lot of the problems that are confronting the country today, since time immemorial, is still with us today. And the roots of this problem can be traced down to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, since law is an instrument of social engineering, and this social engineering is carried out by the National Assembly, the lawyers, and the judiciary. The question has been posed to them by the Nigerian citizenry that how have these institutions used this law to advance the nation's democracy? Our guest today is Barrister Monday Ubani. He is the a former second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Welcome to the program, Barrister Ubani.
Yeah, thank you very much. You have not finished my description. I'm currently the chairman of public interest, section of public interest and development law, SPIDEL. So it's a very important section in Nigerian Bar Association. So we handle matters that concerns the members of the public. It says public interest and development law. So it's my pleasure to have this beautiful young lady and then my good friend and then the members of the crew who are here. You're welcome.
Thank you, Barrister Ubani. Let's start this way. Nigeria is 62. Would you quickly give us a brief on how the legislative arm of government, in connection with the judicial arm of government, advanced democracy since the 1960 independence?
Well, of course, you realize that in 1960 we got our flag independence. In 1963, Nigeria ran into a very big problem politically, and then started the process of having problems here and there in the political atmosphere that culminated into assassination of the former leaders in 1966, and then the entire process has been under the military until certain level of second republic, where the civilians took over, and that is under President Shehu Shari, if you remember vividly. So much of the time from the time we got independence and got our republic, which is 1963, the government have been under the military. So there wasn't the exhibition of this lawmaking process we are talking about now shown so much within that time that Nigeria was under the military dictatorship. It was the military dictators that were actually churning out decrees and edicts with which we were running the government. You know, it was under that Shehu Shari 1979 that we came under civilian democracy.
Yes.
But even at that was also truncated in 1983 when Buhari, this same Buhari now, who is currently the president, overthrew Shari's regime. And after that, coups and counter coups until 1999, when Nigeria returned back to civilian regime. And then, of course, with elected members of the House now who are in the act of making laws. How have they been able to advance the laws, our democracy through the act of legislation?
Yes.
You and I will look at it holistically and also in an unbiased manner. The Nigerian legislators have not done much in terms of advancing the life of Nigerians, with legislative law that help, the common man. Most of the laws they enact, most times, especially the one they do in a haste, are the one that have to do with them. Of course, the electoral law, they can amend it as many times as possible because this is a law that actually affects them. Any law that does not affect the political elite, they don't treat it with any seriousness, and it has happened over time. But the law that will actually put in place structures like welfare package, like humane legislation that will advance our lives in the country, there has been not much attention paid to it. But let me also let you know that the Constitution itself is not originally made by lawmakers. It is usually a constituent assembly that usually make the Constitution. The one that was given in 1979 was made by 50 wise men, led by, I think, Rotimi Williams.
50 wise men.
Men, women. Men and women. I think there are some women there. I think so. Men and women. But I also think that the one of 1999, there was no Constituent Assembly. It was clearly an act of the military. They just sat down and then, just enacted a law and then said, we, the Nigerian people, and of course, everyone have said that that particular constitution lied against itself because there was no time Nigerian met and gave themselves a constitution. But what has happened over time, there has been some level of amendment in accordance with Section 8 of the Constitution, which allows amendment of the Constitution by the members of the House, federal and state.
Yes.
So there has been some level of amendment, but the amendments are not fundamental. They do not go to the root of some of the things Nigerians are complaining about. So we are even engaging again in another amendment process, if you are aware, which is led by Senator Omar Agege, who happens to be the deputy. I think they are collecting information as to amend the Constitution once again. But those amendments are usually not fundamental. They do not affect some of the things Nigerians are complaining about, about human capacity development, about welfare package, about issue of socioeconomic rights. You and I know that socioeconomic rights are not made justiciable under the 1999 Constitution. So there are so many complaints, So we have not really, we can't say with every amount of conviction that we have had enactments that are tailored towards lifting the common man from where we have been.
Yes.
To date, not much progress has been made in that area. If you ask me, and that is my sincere opinion, we have not had advancement, in our legislative, journey to really advance the lives of Nigerians in the process.
Okay.
Like you've rightly said, the 1999 Constitution is one. A lot of Nigerians believe it is one of the major problems that is facing the country because it was foisted on Nigerians by the military.
Yes.
And despite several calls to amend or review the Constitution, it seems like the assemblies and the Ninth Assembly is not intentional about looking into this. Now, there have been calls for a new constitution.
That's right.
Do you think the provision of a new constitution would look deeply into most of the challenges or all of the challenges that the country is facing at this time and provide tangible solutions to them?
The position of Nigerians, and majority at that, is that the constitution we're operating presently is a unitary constitution where powers are not properly devolved. Virtually everything is under the wraps of the federal government. If you want to do anything, you have to go to Abuja. On the issue of security, there is a centralized IG that gives police commissioners to the various states. And if there is any security breach or security threat, you have to call Abuja before Abuja can answer. And you don't run a federalism that manner. Almost everything is under the wraps, as even the light. Of course, this interview is being conducted with generator. You don't have constant light. Why? Because of the mode. If you generate, you have to transmit to one particular structure that is under the federal government wraps, and then that is the transmission. And then in that way, some of the powers will be lost. Some of the energy will be lost because of centralized transmission. And then from transmission now, you now begin to talk about distribution. And we are not having it in a manner that an individual or state can come into power sector. So the Constitution itself has, centralized power and leave it in the hands of the federal government. Virtually everything is in the hands of the federal government. It's something with even of allocation. Fiscal allocation. You have to get all the money from all over the country and then bring it into one purse. Then the federal government now begin to disburse. to the various states. And it makes all the federating unit to be very lazy, hoping for that distribution that will take place once in a month. They are not ready to put on their thinking cap in order to generate enough revenue to run their states. That's why they are all dependent, because of the system we are on, over bureaucratization of the process. And that is done by the constitution itself. So we are people are saying, let's have a people-oriented constitution. Let the people sit down and give themselves a constitution that actually address the issue of the structure of the federal government. The structure of Nigeria is not well balanced. It is not done in such a manner as to allow competition. It is not done in such a manner to allow development. It drags everyone, it's dragging everyone. And so allow constitution to be made by the people who know the needs of the people, and then by the time they make that constitution, it will address some of the inadequacies in the system. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Barrister, when we talk about constitution amendment, and from the way you sound, when I listen to other legal pundits on television, when they talk, they seem to ascribe the power to amend the nation's constitution into the hands of the federal government. And we all know that the federal government, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, these are not hierarchically arranged, but horizontal organs of government. Why do we have that perception that everything needs to be championed or executed by the executive arm of government?
Well, the point is that the constitution itself has made provision for the amendment. The amendment is a combined work. The National Assembly and all the States House of Assembly, they have to make an input. Two-thirds must approve any amendment in the Constitution. In other words, two-thirds members of the National Assembly will agree that this is what they want to amend. Then they will now go to all over the states and to the States House of Assembly. Two-thirds of those states must also assent to any amendment to the Constitution. But maybe when they are talking about it has to be done by the executives, that the initiation of the bill most time come from that angle. The initiation, you have to send a bill to amend or send information that this is the area you want to tinker with. Most time it comes from the executive, but private members' bill also can come, even private suggestions. When the National Assembly wanted to do this amendment they're carrying out now, they went all over the federation to ask for input. They held town hall meetings, and then selected and got input, from the populace of one of which is issue of autonomy of the local government, the issue of independence of the judiciary, and some of the suggestions, which is what is actually undergoing a process now in the National Assembly, after which they will take them to the various states of assembly in order for their input. I agree with you. So it's not the executive actually that should. It is the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly that will actually make that amendment. But the input most times come from the executive. That's what people maybe have been saying. Yes.
All right, Barrister. So we know that Nigerians all over are saying that they want an absolute scrapping of the 1999 Constitution. Now, the Deputy Senate President in person of Ovia Omoagege, who also doubles as the chairman of the Constitution Review Committee.
That's right.
Yes, has stated that the review should be completed by October. However, it doesn't look like that will be feasible. Shouldn't we be looking at an absolute overhaul instead of amendment? And if yes, what does it take to overhaul a constitution?
Yeah, the overhaul will be a new constitution. There won't be issue of amendment, because I call it patch method, which has been undergoing. The constitution has been undergoing for how many years now? Since 1999. It's patch, and there is nothing you patch, that can last forever. It will at one day, at one time, it will get on. So why don't you sit down and say, let's be honest to ourselves. This constitution did not originate from the people. Why don't we allow, the members of Nigeria, the Nigerian citizens, to sit down and give themselves a constitution that they believe in? That will be done through a constituent assembly, where you will elect, the professionals, you elect the artisans, you elect the market women, all sectors of the economy, and cultural organization, political organization must all come together to agree. And we have one problem that we need to solve. That is the structure. Let's address the structure of Nigeria. Okay. That we must be allowed to move at our pace. The way Nigeria is moving is not allowing progress to be made. We must be allowed to move at our pace. If it's an issue of education now, you can open your own this and all that, run your own calendar of education, rather than waiting for what happens at the federal level. The federal level is one controlling everything. And so if the federal is not moving, no state is moving. In the same thing with security. Of course, you see the level of insecurity because we are not running a system that allows decentralization of power what do you call security. I have made that suggestion a long time ago that we should have state police. I'm very happy that the governors who disagree with me how many years ago are now coming to agree that the only way we can solve our security problem one way or the other is to allow state policing, and then ensure that we look at a way of a safeguard to avoid abuse, because state governors can also abuse state police. We must make sure that the central police is also, there's a infusion of it, that if a state now wants to abuse, the central police can come in order to obviate that abuse.
Okay.
So just we tinker with it and try it and see whether it cannot work.
Okay.
So that is my take. Yes.
Okay, so barrister, because one thing I notice is that whenever we start talking about elections or electoral amendments, we could see that in the National Assembly, all senators and all members of the House of Representatives have different constituencies they represent from their states.
That's right.
And we equally have governors from their respective states. And if an issue of state police were to come to play, they will be the one to benefit. The state government will actually become the substantive chief security officers of the state. And if resource were to be shared, fiscal federalism, if we were to go in that perspective as well, the states are going to gain. But these persons in the National Assembly, what some people call, they seem to put politics above service. Is that what is really playing out, or what exactly is the problem?
We had an amendment of the Electoral Act recently.
Yes.
And when it came to the discussion about electronic transmission of results, where everyone knows that if we have such a system in place, it will reduce the interference of the human factor and increase the fairness of the process and credibility. Do you know that some members in the House were now towing party line and wanted to kill that particular section of the law of the Electoral Act? You saw it, where APC were, and then one man was stood up and said, no, we cannot allow this, and he was shouted down and said, are you going to run against the interest of the party? So what we are saying is absolutely correct. We have men and women, most of them are not responsible. They don't even know the reason why they are there. That they are there to represent their constituency and the constituents. And so whatever input they are making in the Legislative Assembly is as a result of the input they have gathered from those they represent. But most of them don't even go back for any input. Ordinarily they should at least quarterly go back to where they are coming from in order to get the idea, the need, the desire of the people they are representing in case of any major legislation in the National Assembly. They don't do that. There's no feedback mechanism. And so what they do is that they go there to play politics of selfishness, their pocket, and not that of those people they represent. So that's why somebody will tell you that our party line, our party decision on this is this, and not what he thinks is in the interest of the country. So I think we have to come out from such political immaturity and let our representatives know that when they are there, they are representing the interest of the country first and foremost. They're representing the interest of those who have elected them, and so they must always tailor their energy, their power, and understanding, towards those people. That should be the first consideration, not their selfish interest. So adequate representation of the people is one of the responsibility of those who have been elected. So let them understand their duty. But most times, most people who go into politics have no idea of what politics is all about, have no idea of what representation is all about, have no idea of what quality representation they ought to do for those people they represent. And that's the problem. So not having that idea, Not having that knowledge will always make them to go there and do the things they do without adequate representation. Yes.
Okay. Let me quickly chip in this before we move forward. Now, the thing is, when this happens, there's this demand that people in their constituencies, I know this stems from the fact that the country doesn't have a political ideology. No political party have political ideologies, and so they just go in without a plan and come out. So the constituencies, is there a way that we can factor in statutory obligations or requirements that can hold this the legislators responsible, that okay, you promised heaven and earth, electricity, education, whilst your party was campaigning for elections, and we gave you our mandate, and 4 years down the line you cannot give feedback, and even if you give feedback, when we measure it within the range of accountability, you've not fulfilled any of these promises. So is there a position where we can make it mandatory constitutionally that these persons must actually carry out what they said they were going to do if elected into power?
Mandatorily, when you are elected, it is expected that a representative is going there to represent the interests of the constituents, is it not?
Yes.
It's also expected that there must be a periodical report of what you are doing.
Yes.
And that's why it is stated that must be constituency office. Every member of the house must have a constituency office where he does consult with those who have elected him. He must
Does that exist?
Yeah, they're supposed to. They're supposed to. That is what it's supposed to be. You go back to the people who elected you. Now, the same constitution also made a provision for recall.
Yes.
The recall process is that if you are not meeting up the expectation of those you have elected, 50% plus, if they put up a petition to INEC chair, then there will be verification process, after which there will be a referendum. If more than 50% says they should be recalled, that is what will happen. So the recall process is one of the powers that the Constitution has given to the people to checkmate, to monitor, and to show accountability, ensure accountability on the part of those that have elected. In the Constitution is there. But the only problem is the tedious nature of the recall. And most times, the agency is not living up to expectation. INEC has never allowed that process to sail through. There was a time there was an intention to recall one Dino Melaya, I remember vividly.
Yes, yes.
It became a failed project because the process is meant to fail. The agencies will frustrate every effort to do that, to hold the people accountable. And so that was why that particular process. So nobody has ever been recalled. But as to answer your question straight away, the point is that the Constitution has made a provision for recall.
Okay.
The Constitution also has made a provision that if in 4 years' time, that individual who has not represented adequately comes back for re-election, that the people will, through their mandate, said, no, you can't represent us anymore. But that presupposes that the electoral process is very free and fair.
Okay.
And there is credibility in it, because if there is no credibility, most times these people come back and ride roughshod over the constituent and go back to the house, not because the people have given their mandate, but because they have used manipulation, they have rigged the election, they rigged themselves into power. And when you don't actually become elected by the power of the people, it removes accountability from you.
Okay.
Because you don't have anything you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them any responsibility because they didn't elect you in the first place. Rather, you manipulated yourself into power. Okay. So accountability is very key. But that accountability can only come when the people are aware. I mean, when the members of the house or those who are in power know that it is the people that elected them. So absence of credible electoral process produces irresponsible leadership. That is actually this. It's directly linked. Yeah.
Okay.
We still have a lot of things to talk about, and we'll go on a very quick break now. When we're back, we want to look at devolution of power. Basically, do stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. We still have our guest, Barrister Monday Ubani, here with us. And right now, we're moving straight to devolution of powers. You know, participants across the country have called for devolution of powers, asked that powers should be shared between state and local government, stating that the existing structure, you know, burdens the federal government with too much responsibilities, and as a result of that, it is unable to meet up with this task. Now, do you also hold the perspective that state and local government should be given their powers to decide the type of system that best suits them?
Now, I know that part of the demand of Nigerians is restructuring of Nigeria. And when they talk about restructuring, part of the reason they advance is the issue of devolution of power. That so much powers are concentrated on the federal government. The power should be given to the state, and then part of the powers that should be given to the local government under the constitution should also be given to them, so that every sphere of governance, you know, is properly addressed. You know, and when everyone is addressed, there won't be any problem. Those are the local government will be taken care of. You know, those minor things that the constitution allows them to do, issue of market, issue of dealing with the roads, issue of regulating debt and VAT, all those other things that they do that at the local government level, the monies that are allocated to them should be given to them in order to carry out their responsibility. I tell you this, if the local government is properly governed, we won't have issue of insecurity. Why do I say so? If a local government chairman takes care of his domain, I'm from Ikuano in Abia State.
Okay.
My local government chair is in charge as the chief security officer of that local government, takes care of the security situation in Ikuano local government where I come from. I don't know where you come from, I don't know, but the chairman will take care of their own. And we have 774 local government areas in Nigeria, and every local government is taking care of. Is Nigeria not safe?
Yes, it will be safe.
It will, definitely.
But today, why we're having insecurity is because the local governments are not properly being governed. They don't get their allocation, their due allocation. Their monies are being hijacked. And I'm saying also that we must devolve powers. The federal government should not be the one in charge of energy. Should not be the one in charge of security, absolutely. There must be proper devolution of powers to all the federating units, so everyone does his own responsibility, because this local government and the states, you know, they are very nearer to the people. The federal government is so bogus there, you know, but who do you meet? At where do you meet them? It's at those units. You meet them and then give them good governance. If good governance is being dispensed to the people, everyone is going to be happy. Everyone will be happy in the country. Everyone will be secured. Everyone will have employment. So it is the issue of devolution that is at the root of Nigerians' problem, that even if you bring the best hand today to run Nigeria, if you don't devolve power appropriately, if you allow this present structure to remain in place, the person is going to be a failure. It's too bogus. What is being given to the federal government is so big and bogus, and it can bog down even the most competent person. So we believe in, you know, proper federating units having powers devolved to them, to encourage efficiency in the system, to encourage, you know, strategic development, making making impact in this in the entire sphere, you know, in governance. Let every person feel the presence of government, feel the presence of governance. If you go to the local government, the roads are not there. If you are coming to my village, you know, it's only the grace of God that will make, you know, so the roads are there all over bad. Why? Because people are not feeling the impact. Why? Because it's bogus. Governance structure is up there. It's not getting to the roots, you know, but that's not how to run power. If the federal system of government, it's issue of devolution of power to the federative unit in order for them to actually give good governance to the people, which is actually what is presently absent, you know, in the system.
Okay, Barrister, when there's one area that I am bothered about when we talk about this constitution amendment and how we should have a seamless way where the administration runs, you know, without any form of rough edges. The thing is, it talks about the autonomy of the legislative arm of government. I have a problem with that. In what way is the legislative arm of government not autonomous? Because these are people that are charged with the responsibility of making laws. They make the laws that govern for the good governance of the country. In what way is it not autonomous?
No, what they mean by autonomy, maybe it is financial autonomy, not necessarily administrative autonomy. They have the administrative heads But when they talk about financial autonomy, with the money, they should be, their money should be first line charge. Before you take the money out of the system, the money should be given to them, first, and they should not in any way go and beg into the executive. The same thing with judiciary.
Are you explaining the first line charge?
Yeah, the first line charge must be, the money must be made available, just like the judges shouldn't go, cap in hand begging for finance to run the judiciary from the executive. They are all three arms of government.
Yes.
So everyone should have their money appropriated and then have access to that money in order to run their arms of government. So when they're talking about autonomy of the judiciary, autonomy of the legislature, it is the issue of financial autonomy. Administratively, they have their heads.
Why are we not having that?
They're not having that because the law is there, but it's not being obeyed. The governors want the judges to come begging. And then they are the one who comes on television and tells, oh, we have bought cars for the judiciary. We have built houses for the judges. It's not their house, it's not your money you're using in doing that. You should give them that money. Let them determine what they want to do with the money. They may not want to build houses for themselves. They may not want to buy cars. They may use it to develop the basic infrastructure in the judiciary in order to ensure convenience, in order to ensure that people have, a place that is very conducive for practice and proceedings. Are you following me? But that is not the case. If you go to our courts, the courts are in shambles. The magistrate especially, they don't have chairs, they don't have light, they don't have, even a proper building. There is one particular magistrate court in Umuahia, is there somewhere, in Abia, that the magistrate just finished sitting and the entire roof collapsed. Thank God that she left 5 minutes before that collapse. The rain was falling because those places are not taken care of. They're totally in shambles and derelict. That is actually what goes on. So I'm saying they all must have their financial autonomy, administrative autonomy, in order for them to do what they're supposed to do in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. The moment you don't give them what they are entitled to, it makes them to be subservient. And when they are subservient, they will not do that responsibility that the Constitution has assigned to them appropriately. That's why you are having problem with our judiciary. There is slowness in the system. Cases are adjourned, severally, and then people are not getting justice. And of course, that justice delayed is justice denied. We are also having problem with even with our legislative arm. Most of them are not really independent in the sense that they have to go to the governor to beg. And that's why they cannot checkmate the governor in appropriation. They cannot checkmate him. They cannot checkmate him in excesses of abuse of financials in the state, because they also go to the governor to beg for money. So if you don't behave well, the governor will not release your funds. So we should be able to ensure that these things, as provided in the constitutions, are obeyed, so that we can have good governance. The absence of these things actually create bad governance, because the judiciary will not perform optimally. It's something with the legislative arm, because of the fact that you don't have that independence as prescribed.
Okay, Barrister, away from the judiciary, executive and legislature, the NLC at a panel sitting in Abuja made reference to the fact that not only should autonomy be given to the arms of government, but to other levels of government, specifically local government. Now, do you think that autonomy of the local government would make it function more effectively and make it immune to the state government's control?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I recommend, that issue of joint state account, joint local government account. That account, money goes into that account and it doesn't get out, for the local government. Because the governors tamper with the money that is meant for local government. Now, if we create proper autonomy for the local government, their money goes straight to them, does not hang anywhere. There is no any issue of joint account. It goes to the account, and then they should be monitored also. Because when absolute power corrupts, if money enters into their hand now without any check and balances, so there must be proper control. And that control comes from the local government councillors, the councillors who are elected, who are the legislative arm of that particular arm of government. So they must checkmate what the local government chairman does. The budget of must be scrutinized. The money that are coming in also must be accounted for. We must allow people, only those who want to go and govern, who understand the meaning of governance, to be given power. Both councillor, both local government chair, both members of the State House Assembly, both the governor, both members of the National Assembly, both the president. We shouldn't be electing wrong people into power. The moment you have wrong people who have no idea of what governance is all about, that's why we're having the kind of retardation in the system. There is no progress being made in Nigeria. You and I know today we are not eating well. Nigerians are not having employment. Nigerians are running away from their country. They would rather go to countries and be servants there rather than stay in Nigeria because the economic situation is bad, the political situation is, the security situation is bad, the social structure is completely, bad because of bad leadership. And there is no way we can get it right if we don't get it right in leadership. 62 years, you said. Next year is another election, cycle.
Yes.
Are we ready for the kind of leaders that can take Nigeria to where we're supposed to be? Where we are today is not where we're supposed to be. A lot of unemployed youths, they graduate from secondary school, university, there are no jobs. Some even now go higher for PhD, masters. They come out, there is no employment. Why can you have a country that God has blessed with such vast resources, but only few are living in absolute opulence? They have so much money that they buy houses all abroad. They have the kind of cars they have. They have their girlfriends and and their children schooling abroad. And Nigerians are suffering here. Nigerians cannot afford 1 square meal a day. Nigerians have no job. Nigerians are roaming around the street. It's only in Nigeria you see so many people on the street on a working hour. I go to Britain, I begin to wait at the people. Sunday and Saturday is even the worst. From Monday to Friday, you don't see people on the road. People are in the factories, in the offices. If you go now, just as we are living now, come and see how many people are hanging. No job. They're supposed to be in factory. They're supposed to be in the offices working, developing the economy. Those who want to do their own private things must have light in order to work. It is generator I keep on saying you are using in conducting this particular interview. Where does that happen? You stay in the office from morning till night, you don't have light. You can't even have the AC with which to cool your brain in order to write and all that. So the system is bad because of bad governance. And we cannot continue like this. That's what we're saying. 62 years is not 1 year. 62 years is a whole lot for a nation. If I'm 62 years, I can't be regarded as a young man.
Absolutely.
So a nation of 62 supposed not to be where we are today. Nigerians are suffering. A lot of boys have nothing to do. That's why you see the rate of armed robbery and kidnapping escalating, because an idle hand is the devil's workshop. So the leadership is key. Getting the kind of leaders that can be able to turn this country around is key. And it lies in the hands of the people. So 2023, let Nigerians wake up from their slumber, from their sleep, and take over this country and ensure that those who are going for governance understand the seriousness of whatever they are, being entrusted into, and then be able to do it. We must hold them accountable. As we elect them, we must ask them to account to us. It's very important.
Okay, Barrister, before I move forward, please pardon me, I want to just backpedal a little, because when you were giving your position about the legislative arm of government, and you said their nature of being autonomous is administrative, it's not otherwise, and that it is on the financial aspects. If they don't have this autonomy in their finances, it cripples every other part. And you made it sound like they are helpless and there's no one to fight the battle. Can the legislative arm of government, or the judicial arm of government, can they take the executive arm of government to court? Who actually put things into proper place?
There has been court judgment. There have been several court judgments.
And yet the executive would not
They are
obey.
not being implemented, yes. Even the court. Judicial independence of the court has been pronounced several times by the court that they ought to.
So no one can hold the executive arm of government to account
There's no punishment. Well,
for purely disobeying the law.
for disobeying there must be punishment. But the judiciary again, as I said earlier, goes cap in hand. Who pays the piper, that takes the tone. In fact, in one particular conference we had, the chief judge said, let's be realistic. These governors you see, we have to respect them because we go to them to beg for money. A judge was saying, it's a chief judge of a state, Edo to be precise. So we have an issue. We have a problem. That's why we're saying that if we want to run a country where everyone will be happy and respected, then we must go back to the laws and obey the laws of the land and do the right thing and ensure that agencies and institutions are working and that they are powerful enough, and not individual. Powerful institutions will ensure that any bad person that enters into the system is taken care of. That's what happened in America, where one president emerged and wanted to take Americans back to 16th century, and the system threw him up and threw him out. So that's how it's supposed to be. We must have strong systems that work, that checkmate everyone and make sure that everyone falls in line.
Okay. Now, okay, we want to just briefly move forward to the immunity clause about the chief executive officer, whether at the federal level or the state level.
Yes.
Do you support the perspective that it should be removed or it should be sustained?
I'm agreeing with those who say that you should remove immunity clause. It makes these people in power to do all manner of things, knowing fully well that as they are there, they can do any manner of thing and get away with it. I'm also interested in ensuring that the man or woman who has been elected is not harassed or distracted, in the pursuit of his constitutional duty. We must balance it. Absolute immunity, giving these people powers to do all manner of things while in power, knowing fully well that within that time there is no legal proceedings that can be initiated against them, and it makes them to behave, irresponsibly. But I will want a mixture, a hybrid. If it is proven that the governor has committed or president a very grievous criminal offense, even while in power, he should be arrested and tried.
Right. Let's talk about the poor delivery of justice now. One of the information flying around is that one of the reasons for poor delivery of justice is low remuneration. Now, according to reports that we have, the last time the salaries of judges was revealed was in 2007, which is about 15 years now. Now, even with the current reality of the economy, the high cost of living and the situation of the country, judges' salary have not been reviewed for 15 years, yet they expect them to deliver fair judgment. How possible is this?
It's a very good question. If you don't pay any person well, you cannot be able to expect anything better from that individual. I understand that when Singapore, the leader that Lee Kuan Yew came in and discovered that people are not being paid well, and that contributed to the level of corruption in Singapore. He reviewed the salaries of all civil servants and made it possible that everyone who is a civil servant will be well remunerated. And so when you are well remunerated, you now engage in corruption or in corrupt practices. He now enacted a very grave law that deals with those who are corrupt. And in other words, you have no reason to be corrupt because we are well paid. And the country, Singapore, has never been the same. It is regarded as first world now. If I have been to Singapore and I've seen the level of development in that decision. So it's a thinking decision. If you see the kind of salaries that civil servants are paid, it's very funny. But see the level of corruption. All the big houses you see in Abuja are owned by civil servants in Nigeria. They own them. And where did they get the money? They take so much out of the system. You can't get any contract today in Nigeria without paying money up front. There is no, even under this government, it's even worse. We thought that when Buhari comes in, he's going to stop that rubbish that has been going on. You can't get any contract without offering money. There is none. For your name to enter, you must give money. Even when you have executed a contract, you cannot get your money without parting with money. It's still going on.
So it's like
and you cannot even
money.
you can't even be paid the full money. No contractor in Nigeria for the past 10 or 15 years have ever been paid, you are awarded a contract of 2 billion, at the end they pay you 2 billion. It's not possible. I mean, the money comes to you. You will share it virtually with people, the civil servants. If it's 2 billion, you'll be sure you can't get 2 billion. It's not possible. If they're paying you, you will not get that money. You must share with them. That is what is going on in Nigeria. All over the local government, the states. There is no state. There is no local government. And what they do now is that in the states, and I know of a state where there is no contract given to an outsider. The contracts are given to those who are in government. They now call outsiders and they pay them peanuts to go and do it. And that's why you see the low quality of contract that is being executed all over the country. All over. There is no contract that somebody now wins. I'm competent enough, they bring and you win that contract. It's not possible. They will win the contract and sell it to you. Then you now and say, this is how much you're going to, if you agree, the money goes to them who are in government. That's what, all over the state, all 36 states, that's what they do. All over the federation, that's what they do. Stealing is going on all over, as I speak to you, in all the offices. That's why Nigeria, when they say is a capital of corruption, it is an understatement. This is the headquarters of corruption personified. There is nothing you get today in the civil service without paying money. There is nothing you do now. It's even coming to private sector. If you want to get a loan in the bank, you must agree how much you are going to share with those who are giving you the loan before they issue the loan. Yes, in the private sector. So corporate practices, good practices are clearly absent. And that's why any country that do not practice good corporate practice, both in the public sector and private, cannot. You go to nations, you go to UK, every day there are roads are being repaired and all that. As I speak to you now, there is all the roads in Lagos are up as bad. They are not passable. Election is next year, so all the monies now are not, the roads are, they're not being used for the for the people. All gear towards 2023. So how can you run a nation that way? The same thing all over the state. So all over, I go to my state, Abia. There is nowhere that is passable. You go to Aba, now that the rain is, you can't, it's not possible. All the money, they're all gathering them for election 2023. And there's no way a nation moves forward with such atmosphere, with such poor understanding of what governance is all about, with the kind of poor leadership we even elect in the first place, who have no idea of what governance is.
Okay. Barrister, as we begin to round up, because
I'm praying.
Yeah, as we round up, let me just talk on, because it's obvious that we have powerful men and we have powerless and weak institutions. How do we rectify these problems?
Can we rectify it with kind of leadership that understand what powers are and what they are there to do? They will allow the institutions to work and not themselves. We shouldn't have powerful men. We should have powerful institutions.
These men who preside over the affairs of these
Yes, that's what I'm
institutions.
saying now. It is men that preside, but you don't allow you to be more powerful than the institution. It's the institution that should control the men. But correcting that wrong is getting the right persons who understand what power is all about and what governance is all about. When they understand it, they will allow institutions to work. That's why anytime a good leader comes in, as a military, as a president, the army general will tell all his boys that we are now operating democracy. There is no way you can begin to violate people's rights. The same thing with the IG, because a good president is in power. If there is any excesses, he removes the IG. And then, are you following? When the IG is removed, he knows that his power is ephemeral. When the president misbehaves, the House will impeach him. So when these issues are working, and when the House also misbehaves, you recall them. That's how this is work. So there are checks and balances. Then the people themselves must be the one to elect the kind of leaders they want. And if they elect wrong leaders, it will affect them. They will suffer misgovernance. So the system must check itself. Nobody should be so powerful that he does anything and get away. The president cannot, the minister cannot. We should not have this type of leadership where you say the president cannot be offended, the president cannot be criticized. So says who? In democracy? So the president can do anything and get away with it, even irresponsibly? No, he cannot. In any system that is quite alive, he will be called to order by the National Assembly. The governor will be called to order by the State Assembly. That's how it's been done. And you don't come and take any money that does not belong to you. That's not appropriated. How dare you? In America, you go and take the money that belongs to the federal government to go and buy wristwatch as a president, which is what happens here. The president will go on a medical and use all the Nigerians' money to park our aircraft in the airport in London, UK for many months, and we are paying. And there's no accountability. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world except in Nigeria. So we are saying, let's allow institutions to work. When institutions work and become very powerful, then everyone will fall in line, because knowing fully that the system can deal with you appropriately if you misbehave. That's how it's been done. I think, ask the last question. Let me now round up.
Yes, as we wrap up now, Nigeria is 62. One would expect that there are certain milestones that she has crossed. Now, do you think at this point, with all of this, there's hope for the country, for people that feel like there's nothing left?
Oh, there is hope. There is hope. I see light. I see green light, and I see us entering into, the era where everyone will smile. Where Nigeria will be regarded as one of the best countries in the world. Where the whites will begin to scramble for visa to come here. Where Nigerians who are living abroad want to come back to contribute their own quota here. I see it. I am seeing it, and it's going to happen in my time. I'm not going to die under this condition. No. Nigeria will be a better country in which is possible very soon. My children will not live under the condition I live. My great-grandchildren will live in a country where they're going to be very proud of. We wake up in the morning and say, God bless Nigeria. Why? Because Nigerians will make up their mind to get the kind of leadership that can change the narrative. It is possible. The kind of people that can change this country are here. They're here. There are many, but they don't have the opportunity. They don't have the money. They have not stolen so much out of the system in order to come and convince and bribe Nigerians to be voted in. No. Nigerians will wake up one day and say, we don't need any shishi. We don't need any money. We want to vote you in because we believe in you. We know your antecedent, we know what you have done, we know what you have within your circle. You have been able to affect life. So even with your own resources, now is the time to repay you with public resources for you to affect more life. That is the thing. They all wake up. Everyone begin to think, they can collect that money from you and say, we are not going to vote for you, even though you have given us the money. Yeah, we are taking it from you, but we won't vote for you. We are voting for Mr. B, who has not given us, because we know him. He will go there and represent us well. A day is coming. I see it in the horizon. I feel it. I can touch it. One day it will happen. You will smile. I will smile. We'll not be in a hurry to leave this country, go elsewhere, go to Canada. Look at how many families are relocating because they're running away from the system. They're afraid of the country. It's uncertain. The security situation is so bad that everyone wants to get out of the country. But I tell you, this country will become a country of destination. Everyone will want to come here. The visa will be so scarce for people who want to come back to Nigeria. And some of us who have been here will begin to enjoy the fruit of the land. There is a horizon in the air. I'm saying it. You will enjoy this country. You will enjoy this country. I will enjoy this country. My children will enjoy this country. It is a country of possibility. Okay. It is possible.
We will all enjoy this country.
Barrister Ubani was sounding like a prophet. I want to believe what you say.
I am a prophet, and I'm speaking from honestly. Heaven is giving me flesh and blood. It does not reveal this, It's
Absolutely
only God that revealed it to
not.
me that it's going to be possible if we believe.
If we believe.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Barrister Monday Ubani.
Thank you.
It's been a very productive moment having this conversation with you. And I'm sure Nigerians, when October 2nd or October 1st, when in the celebration of the season, they watch this, they will be proud that at least someone of your status who've been doing much at the federal level, trying to influence policies and to revamp the world polity as usual, will have a better nation to live in the nearest future. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. That's where we draw the curtain. Remember to follow us across all of our social media platforms at High Impact Studios, High Impact TV, and news around the globe _. Till I see you next time, stay safe. I am Sarah Osuanza.
And I'm Oyinpriye Krumale. Many thanks for watching.